And I'd like to welcome to the stage Brent who's a Canadian, who's the Director of First Impressions from an organization called the Nextup. So, Brent with the hat, the stage is yours. We look forward to a lively session.
All right. So much stuff to organize. What's going on? Pretty good. You're a noisy crowd. All right, we're going to do something because I know we've been sitting here now taking in a bunch of stuff for the last few hours. I was at Google, and I was speaking at Google at the start of this year, and I got to be on campus, and I got to go into a developer suite. It's about a room this size where like these eggheads are like cracking on computers all day long. So what we're going to do is they do this little exercise at the middle of the afternoon, and all it does is it just wakes their brains up. All right? Super quick exercise. I want you to do it. Everyone stand up. Come on, get up. Everyone has to do this. We're at a technical conference. We're all going to be nerds together. So if I split the room like right down, there's a gentleman, put your hand up with the long hair there. Yeah, you. Okay, so everyone on this side of the room, on his side, I want you to put up your left hand, right? Everyone on this side of the room, put up your right hand, okay? Now, you guys on this side of the room, start circling your arm clockwise, okay? You guys on this side of the room, circle your arm counterclockwise. All right, are you guys doing that? Now, keep doing that, and for just on a 5 count, I'll count to 5, just turn your heads back and forth, right to left. Ready? Start. Back and forth. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, stop. Does everyone feel like a little bit more like energized and their brains are woken up? No? No, I just want to see if you do it. Are you awake now? Sorry, are you guys awake? You guys want to, there you go. That's what's happening. I am from Canada. I have family in Southern California, in San Diego. I've lived in Toronto my whole life, but I travel a lot, so my accent goes all over the place. But I guarantee you, I am Canadian. If you come up and smell me right now, I do smell like maple syrup. I swear. And you know why? Because a bottle of maple syrup from my stupid friend Simon in Winchester that I brought over on the plane last night broke and got all over my clothes. So I am not kidding. My underwear smells like maple syrup. Now, if you're tweeting this, it's at Brent Weiss. You can tweet this, so you can tweet things like, wow, he looks taller. In real life, his wife's wrong, his beard looks excellent. You guys behind me, Al, like, wow, his butt looks really good in those jeans. Stuff like that. Tweet it out. Because we're going to talk about some things today, and I'm going to keep it light, but I want us to sort of think about and change our thinking. So, a little bit, and that's usually what I do. So, do me a favor, just clap like the session's been over and it was really amazing. Just clap for me like it was really good, okay? Fine. Cool, eh? You followed the signs, and that's what this session is all about. See, quiet is the new loud is about following those signs. It's interesting, right? Because I just asked you to make a bunch of noise, and I put up that little sign, and it did a lot of work. See, that's what technology does. When we use technology to take a lot of things in. The technology takes a lot of things in, a lot of exercises in for us, simplifies it, quiets it down so we can focus on just one thing at a time as people, right? That little sign helps people focus. Think about it. Bubba Watson or Rory McIlroy goes up to the tee box at a golf tournament. He steps into the box, crowd's restless, they're making noise, and the sign goes up. Hundreds of people immediately get quiet. Just because the sign's doing all the work. The sign is the technology that the golf marshals came up with to solve that problem. And it allows the golfer to do the one thing he needs to do in that moment, which is make the best shot he possibly can off that tee box. We need to set up our salespeople to do the one thing they need to do really well, or our service advisors, or our techs. Do one thing at a time. Either sell the car, create that experience. It's exactly what Nick was talking about. Create the best experience for our people. We need to simplify our things, our processes, our stores, in order for these guys to focus and do the things they need to do, and we can use technology to do that. So what are our goals? What are your goals for your stores? Just shout them out. Come on, you Brits are really outgoing and loud. Come on, shout it out. Anybody have a goal? All right, I'll tell you what they are. What do you want? I'm going to tell you. You want more traffic. Am I correct? Right? We want more traffic. More traffic is more leads. I'm doing really advanced dealer math for you now. I know we had, the stats guys up here earlier, but this is my math. More leads equals more opportunity. More opportunity for your staff means more profit. Can we agree that that's pretty decent, simple dealer math, right? How do we get that? What do we usually do when we get to that point? When we understand what we want? More traffic turns into more leads, more opportunities, more profit. What do? We spend. And we spend, and we spend, and we spend. Do you guys spend a lot of money to get that traffic, get those leads in, right? We do. We spend all the time. And it's interesting because we do a lot of this without even thinking about it. It's this muscle memory that we do to reach into our pockets and throw money at the market to drive more people in. Day in and day out, we don't even think about it. But what we do is we tax our stores every time we do it. And we start to burden our stores. And sometimes we have success when we spend that money, when we put this burden of this more traffic, more leads, more opportunities, because it is a burden. And I like to show you what happens when we don't have success, because what happens when we don't have success is when we're spending money either on technology or we're spending it on marketing. What happens is sometimes it doesn't work, though. In this burden of spending more money to get all this traffic, sometimes we pull the chute. Sometimes we stop doing things because we don't see the value in it, but we don't invest in it long enough to actually see what's really happening. And that's what today's all about. And I apologize in advance if I gap on anything today. I got here yesterday. I was just in Vegas. I think I go to Kentucky next, and I asked last night at dinner what day it was. So stick with me while I go through this, because sometimes we pull the chute. And what I want to do is I always like to take my sessions, and I like to do a bit of science. I like to do an exercise like we did earlier, that technical Google exercise we all did together. I like to do exercises in my session to help me prove that point about sometimes when we spend and we invest in technology and we overburden our stores, what happens? What happens with all these opportunities? Okay? I'm going to do a little bit of science. My good friend Ian is going to come up and he's going to help me, so come on up. Now Tristan's going to come up too for this first round and help me. So Tristan is going to play the vendor. I've got Ian, my friend. Give Ian and Tristan a hand for coming up. Come on up. Now you hold on to that, Tristan. Now I need you to hold on to this bag. Now Tristan is playing the role of the vendor. Tristan's job is to provide more traffic, which turns into more leads, which turns into more opportunities, which turns into more profit. He's responsible for leads and traffic. You are responsible for turning those opportunities into profit, right? So what I want you to do, Tristan, is Tristan has a bag, and in this bag he has plastic ping pong balls, okay? I only want you to take just one at a time in a meticulous manner. Do 5, throw them, no, you catch, I know what you want to do, but I just want you to catch one. You throw them to Ian, okay? And Ian, with your free hand, catch one, put it in the bag, all right? 1, count with me. 2, 3, 4, 5. Good, simple. Big hand for Ian. You stay here. You stay here too, Tristan. You did your job, right? You did your job as a vendor, okay? And you did your job as the dealer. Actually, Tristan, you come stand right here, and Ian, I want you over here because I need to do something here now. Now, so he did his job. 1-to-1, that vendor got the leads and the traffic to it. But see, what happens is your dealers, and about the 3rd week of the month, you start to freak out, right? Because we're not at target, the OEM's breathing down your neck, or the salespeople aren't doing things, and you start to gut spend. You start to go out in the market, and you start going, we got to throw some more money because we don't have enough traffic. My gut is telling me that we don't have enough things going on. This dude's smiling in the audience right there. It's like, he knows it, he lives it, right? Because someone comes into your office, 3rd week of the month, and goes, we don't have enough stuff going on here. So what happens is we start to spend, and we spend. So I need 5 more people to help me out. You come on up. You stand there. Just go stand beside Tristan. You, sir, come on up. You stand up there too. All right, would you help me out? How many do I got up there? I got 4. I need 2 more. You come up. Just because Jason, because you smiled. And come on up, Graham. Now, these guys are all going to be vendors. See, what happens is you guys start to gut spend. And I want you guys to sort of stand in a diagonal line. I know it's still early, but stand in a diagonal line this way. So, cheat the audience like you're a cast of a show or something. Everyone can see you. Now what happens is, see, Ian comes out to his people, his marketing people, and goes, we don't have enough traffic. We need to drive more traffic to the dealership. So I need to spend more money. And I need to get more opportunities and traffic, and I need to turn these into profit. Now these are your traffic and your leads. Now I want you to get a little bit closer to Ian. Now, Ian, give me your glasses, please. Okay? Because I need to ensure your safety. Now, I know you can't see very well without these, and that's all right. You're a dealer principal. Doesn't matter. You spend with your gut, right? Now, cheat a little closer. I got to get the hell out of the way. On my go, I want you to get your leads to Ian as fast as possible. In any way you can, as fast and as hard as you can. All right? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Go. Are we good? Are we done? How about a big hand for our vendors? You guys go sit down, bring your bags. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Now, how's our opportunities look, Ian?
Low.
Low. See what we did? We asked ourselves something. Thank you. Can I have a big hand for my friend Ian here, please, sir? Thank you so much. It's all over the place. Practice my football. See, I said it right. Didn't call it soccer. So, see, what we did was, let's see how Ian did. I missed a slide there. So how did Ian do? First time around, when it was one-to-one, when it was simplified, Ian did a great job. Ian locked it in because he just had to work with his vendor in an organized fashion. But he actually did what 98% of us do. He actually scored really well. See, 98% of the world's population can't multitask. But we ask this of our teams and of our people all the time. You need to multitask better. You need to be multitasking better. You need to do a better job of your multitasking. We ask this of our people all the time. And when we spend, this is what happens. Our opportunities are all over the place. So instead of holding up the sign in the dealership on the floor to quiet down the noise and the traffic so our people can focus on one customer at a time, giving the best experience, why do we set them up like it's the NCAA college basketball tournament in the US, and every time some poor kid has to go to the free throw line, this is what he sees. This is what we're doing. This is the noise that I created with those bags of ping pong balls, but we do this every single month to our people on our floor. And we do it, and we invest in technology, and when the technology doesn't work, we walk away from it. So what I want to talk about today is about how to quiet the process. And I want to give you 2 case studies that I think will resonate for you, because one is a case study on a store that used something for their outbound retention marketing, and one was using a piece of technology to work process on the floor. And I will set this up this way for you. They are companies I worked for and worked with now, and I was building this before I even knew I was going to leave one and join the other. But for the vendors in the room, you can take any vendor. I can take Nick's company Trader. I can take any vendor that's a part of this session and slot them in, because we use our vendors and our third parties in and out all the time, and they're always constantly trying to create technology that's going to help you or streamline things for you. So I want to walk you through 2 case studies where I had stores, and this is more about what they went through, what they woke up and saw, and how they sort of reset themselves based on their learnings and from their habits to their wins, okay? It's about the stores. The first store is a store called Aurelia Hyundai, and they're in Canada. They're a Canadian store, and they're 5 years old. They're a very small town northeast of Toronto, and they are a retirement community. It's a beautiful little town on the lake, but their buying public is 40 plus, okay? They have a very limited database, but they utilize a lot of live chat. They use a lot of digital tactics for their store. They very much are eager to adopt things and try things and learn things all the time, because that is their leverage in a market that is quite small but very competitive. And they wanted to use some marketing automation. And I love talking about marketing automation because that's exactly what this exercise was about. You see, people are making technology all the time to do multiple things for us, to take all of those opportunities that we threw at Ian and organize them for one person to do one thing at a time in an efficient manner. So their automation, what they wanted to do was they wanted to take more control of their retention marketing. They were paying third-party agencies large amounts of money to do things like private sales, and I don't know if they do them here, and I should have asked last night over dinner, but we do these awesome things called private sales where these third-party companies will come in and they'll do a big database run at your store. They'll mail 3,500 to 4,000 people about a private weekend sale, and then they'll email them and they'll build landing pages out for them. That's what these things do, and they'll cost you about 12 grand to run it, and they just destroy your database. So dealers only do them about twice a year. And they wanted to figure out a better way of doing this because with their limited budget, they just couldn't be doing this the way the industry was doing it year after year in our markets in Canada and the US. And they also wanted to engage their own staff in this process. This is the most awesome thing about these private sale companies in Canada and the US is they will do it for you, and then they send a greeter in on your behalf that wears a tuxedo, like with tails, and they stand at the front of the store and they greet people, and they tell people all about the products and the sale you're having because nobody in your store can do this. Isn't that insane? Thank you. Can you please also send someone to the store for the sale that can tell people about the cars and the sale we're having? Right? We give these people money. Thank you. Please send someone else who's never in the store to come stand at the front of the store and be a representative for us. That's why these guys wanted to get away from this, and they wanted to find technology that did it. So the software they used was a piece of technology called Bumper. And what Bumper did was basically in a screen in about 15 to 20 minutes of a dealer's time, prepared the direct mail, the email, the landing page, and all the tracking for that dealer. So instead of paying thousands and tens of thousands twice a year, they were able to actually go in and do this month to month. They were very excited about this. But here were their hurdles. The very first thing they did was they pulled too much data for their first campaign. The number one thing they wanted to get away from was doing these huge database pulls and all this mailing. So the first thing they did was they emailed 3,000 people. Bravo. Bravo, gentlemen. Way to go. That's the very first thing they did. And then the other thing they didn't do, they didn't involve their team. How many people, show of hands, how many people love those last-minute events that come through the door and no one knows about it? How many salespeople say, I didn't know we were doing that? Anybody? Have any experience? Don't be shy. I know it. We do it all the time. We do it on our side too. You know, hey, did everyone email about the release on the product today? What release on the product? I know it. I live it. And they didn't contact the customer when the leads started coming in, so they ran the technology out into market. The technology starts providing leads, and they just did this. It's like what Harry was talking about earlier with the phone. Right? We're giving the store a qualified lead. See, what this tool does is it actually heat maps people based on how many of the materials are touching. So the dealership not is just getting a lead. They're getting like a qualified lead of this is how many times they've done it. Or they filled out the form saying, yes, I would like to come into your event on Saturday and upgrade to my next car. What time will you see me at? No one got a call. They just did this. I paid my $500 or my $800 to the technology company, I'm good, right? Because the computers, they're going to take us over, they're going to enslave us all, I might as well let them start doing it now. So they sat back and they did nothing. Like we do every time we get a new piece of tech. Every time we go to a show and we sign up for something new and we go, this is our silver bullet, this is exactly what they did. They took that magic bullet approach. They sat back and waited for all the opportunities to come waterfalling into this dealership. And of course, they fell completely on their face. So the first thing they did was they got back in touch with their vendor and they did a complete regroup. And this is important because they sat with their vendor and asked, what did we do wrong? See, I've been on the vendor side as an agency person or as a vendor for so long. My calls are like, Brent, you guys keep screwing up things. And I know it. It's a two-way street. Our relationships are a two-way street. I can do so much and you can do so much. But they were very gracious here because they knew they did something wrong. And instead of coming at us and saying the tech didn't work, because they saw what was happening in their dealership, they saw that salespeople were falling all over themselves, they saw that people were misinformed and didn't know what was going on, so they called the product people and said, how can we regroup on this and make this better as a team? And so they kept learning about the nuances of the program, and this is how the vendors will prove to you their worth, though. And this is important because sometimes the vendors will go back on a question like that. They'll say, how do we do this so it better improves what we just did the last time? We feel we failed. And if your vendor said, oh, just spend more money, then hang up the phone and get a new vendor. These are the things that you need to watch out for. But what they did, what they learned was that there were some really remarkable product coaches that showed them all sorts of nuances when they started segmenting their own data and building their own campaigns. They had all these aha moments that the minute they came running out the door, the next time they were ready, they did everything right the next time out the door. And everything got quiet. Everything got very quiet for the store. The software was creating uniformed communications back to the customers. You see, the system was delivering leads a certain way, and the sales people started sending back their responses because, again, as Nick showed us earlier, they're qualifying themselves. Everything is coming in. All you have to do is start to talk to them. They've told you everything you need to know. So their staff picked up on that right away, and they started sharing what they were emailing back. So they had this uniformity in what they were sending back. The store gave the sales staff access to what the management was seeing on the back end. And this is key because, there's some people that work on my team that I won't let touch my TV remote. But this is important. You still need to show people in your store what the tracking is. If you're using a piece of software or a system that allows you a view into the data, show the salespeople, show the service advisors, let them see what you're seeing. Let them engage it as much as you feel comfortable with, but show them what you're seeing so they can understand the power of the data that is starting to create more business decisions and why you and your leadership teams are creating those decisions. It shortened their phone messages, right? We've been talking about this all morning. We get all this information. They weren't doing the question and answer with the customers. A lot of times the deals were actually taking place over the phone. And it allowed the staff more time to actually talk about the monthly program that was in and not trying to qualify and figure out what they wanted. They could actually talk more about the incentives that were in market, maybe move them up in a vehicle based on an incentive that Hyundai was offering that month. It allowed them to educate their people, their return customers, because these are retention customers. It allowed them to evolve the relationship with those people by educating them on what they knew. And that was really powerful for their existing customers. And here's where they gained some new insights. So sales were easier to close because the platform heat mapped customer engagement, like I mentioned earlier. And they were doing even more deals before the person even got to the store. So think about it. This is a retention marketing tool giving them all sorts of data. The more data they got, the faster they were closing. They weren't even coming into the store. And they reduced their buying period by 50%. All right? And they could use the tool to target for desired used vehicles for their lot. See, their pre-owned lot, it's a small town, small store. I think they can hold 25 pre-owned vehicles on their lot when they have their new stock in. So they started looking at the tool and going, well, wait a minute. Maybe I can start finding vehicles I want for my pre-owned lot based on the data I've got in this machine. So here are their biggest takeaways. They reduced their retention marketing budgets by 50% annually because they weren't spending tens of thousands of dollars on shotgun approaches to their market. That was huge. This store uses this tool almost every other week now. Pockets of 100 customers here, 50 customers there, 200 customers here. If you watch how they track through this tool, they're using it every week. And a lot of other dealers are learning by this. And Brock the manager of the store was completely thrilled to be part of this case study and share what he's learning. Small batches, right? It's very small and very tactical. And they can use this tool, and there's tools that you have in your toolbox that you can use, and maybe if you start really digging into them, you can start using them to call audibles or start to plan your marketing farther out. Don't just think in the moment. Don't think in the third week of the month. Think how you can take a tool like this and start building scenarios, and if those tools can show you costings like this one does, then you can use it to plan. But this is cool. They no longer rely on the auction. This was the biggest takeaway. When we built this tool several years ago, we never walked into a dealership with it and said, I'm going to take away your need to go to the auction moving forward by you using this tool. No, I wanted people to use it to retention market better to their client base. I had no idea that someone went, I no longer have to send people to the auction. I no longer have to overpay for cars. I can use this and get everything I need. This was completely eye-opening, and that was the biggest takeaway for this store. Still with me? Almost done. Lithia Toyota of Abilene, their dealer buyer, they joined Lithia Motors in 2005. Lithia Motors, for some of you who know North America, they're a huge U.S. group, a massive, powerful group. They're in Central Texas, 7-time winner of the prestigious Toyota Motor Sales Award, impeccable Google reviews. You know, they're like the folks sitting at this table here. You know, they have this level of excellence, Lithia, and all their stores do as well. There's, you know, their reviews are spotless. The way they run their stores, these President's Awards. But they needed to look at automation for something at the store. Keenan, their manager, felt there was a better way to handle their customers. He was seeing things on the floor that, from a process standpoint, as people were coming into the store, he could see that people weren't being handled as best they could. Peers in his group were recommending some automation because, as a group, they were starting to adopt some technology that was helping them in their process as people came into the dealership. He needed better time management because, you see, if this was the front door of a dealership in the United States right now, they have something called an open floor. Most of you do, where you let your salespeople just sort of wander around and do what they want. So imagine 6 or 7 or 10 of us standing at the front door of the dealership. You know, it's not as warm here all year round like in Canada, but you'll have all these people in front of a door. They're all salespeople. Drive to any warm weather dealership in the US and you'll see a dozen salespeople standing like vultures at the front door of a dealership. Vaping, smoking, swearing. It's awesome. I was just in Las Vegas at a big Chevy store, and the amount of F-bombs made me blush, and I'm Canadian, and I swear all the time. I'm an HR's worst nightmare. But this was terrible. There was 9 guys standing up front of this Chevy store, people walking in and out, smoking, swearing, talking about Trump, talking about Clinton. It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe it. So the software they used to sort of solve this problem of this open floor environment, their sales processes, people were now coming in, as we've heard. They're researching more, they're coming in ready, but there was something wrong. So they wanted to use Nextup. And here's the killer, that gut spend you see there, $25,000 the 3rd week of every month. The owner of this store said, "Hey y'all, we don't got enough traffic." He didn't sound exactly like that, but it's pretty close. But $25,000 a month. Who spends $25,000 the 3rd week of every month on television here? Anybody? He just did it, like, because his gut told him they weren't spending enough. I don't know of any Canadian dealer that spends that kind of money, but if you ever go to Texas, please go to a big, big dealership. It's crazy town all over the place. It's awesome to see. And these guys just spend money like this without batting an eye. But $25,000, 3rd week of every month. So they used Nextup. What Nextup is simply this. It's a process tool that allows a store to manage their salespeople in an organized fashion to help the receptionist, the management, and the salespeople know where everyone is at every given time. There's people on point greeting and accepting customers as they come into the store. And if you're not on point, you're at your desk doing phone follow-ups, internet lead follow-ups, maybe you're logging stuff in the CRM. I know, it's mind-blowing how we aren't doing this already. But you know, this is what this tool does. It's giving the dealership back the time for people to be doing what they should be doing, not telling you how busy they are. And here were their hurdles. Unlike the Aurelia store, where they just sort of bought into the tech and sat back and wiped their hands clean of it, this store bought in as a group. They saw this technology, they assessed it as a group, management, ownership alike, and they said the entire management team was bought in from the start, so there were no hurdles. It's that US pride, right? You know, we don't have no stinking hurdles. We just needed to hold staff accountable to what we as management decided to accomplish. That's a huge hurdle. We talk about that all the time because, you see, we talk about all these great things, and I loved your slides about that connected car and how easy that is to connect all that together. Have you ever watched a salesperson try to put an app on a customer's phone ever? Anyone ever done that? Right? Super easy, right? How easy is it to have your staff and your people do things that you need them to do? Is it really easy still? Is it like butter? Smooth? Getting everyone to buy in? And then maybe after a while you give up, management starts giving up, they stop buying in, and then the ownership goes, "Why are we spending money on this?" Am I right? And they start throwing tech away again that maybe you need. Maybe you need it. But this is what happens. So that is their hurdle, because as a leadership team, they said, we are bought in, and we are going to invest our money, and we're going to invest our time, but they as leaders can't get stuck in their old habits. They have to work with their staff to ensure this happens, because this is typically done ass backwards, right? They will hand it to the staff and go, "Good luck, everybody. Try not to cry." Here were their instant insights. The minute they started putting this process tool into place on their showroom floor, they realized that hundreds of opportunities weren't even being logged. Because now they have people that if you're not on point, you are at your desk doing paperwork and follow-up and appointment setting again. So all of a sudden they noticed their CRM logs went right up. CRMs historically in the US and in Canada right now, even though the dealer socket and the VIN solutions and all these great companies have all this amazing technology for us to use, are probably being used at 40% of their capacities right now. The amount of stuff that's not getting tracked. So this store automatically saw a 25% raise in what was being logged into their system. But it wasn't a process problem that they were having. Keenan thought it was a process problem. He thought his staff just weren't, handling the experience for the customer the right way. He started seeing that they were understaffed. By putting people in an organized queue to handle customers and move through the store, he realized right away they were understaffed. It wasn't a traffic problem. They had all the traffic they could handle. The staff just wasn't armed enough with enough people and support people to handle all of these folks coming in to see them. Totally understaffed. And customers weren't waited on and were not being followed up with because there was so much traffic coming into the store. People were running to their phones, they were running back to customers, they were completely distracted with what they had to do. They weren't focused on the one thing they had to do in the moment with a customer is to give them the best experience and move them through the in-store process to get them in a car. Too many people, you've got people running around with their heads cut off, you've got people tired, you've got people irritated, and that's now going to wash out on your floor all over the place. Nothing better than watching a finance manager swearing as he paces across the floor because he's buried in work because these waves of people are coming in and we just don't have the right amount of people in to handle the flow of customers. This delicate dance that happens in the showroom every day, especially on those really busy days. They were just really understaffed. But things changed. The more they invested their time, the more they sat and the more they adopted as a group, they started logging the customers. Engagement was now happening with 25% of those customers who probably were never spoken to or missed before. People walking on the lot or people walking into the showroom. 25% lift. And creating a rotation amongst the staff using this tool helped them put more value on the customer and more serious. Because you see, when I'm standing out in front of a store for 3 hours with nothing to do but smoke and swear and talk about Donald Trump, someone like me walks in my running shoes and my jeans and someone goes, I don't want to talk to this bozo. Why do I want to sell? He's not going to buy a car. He's not serious. What if I want to buy 10? He doesn't know that I'm some eccentric millionaire, does he? No. They start qualifying people. They start making business decisions on your behalf. That's pretty awesome, isn't it? I like that. I like when salespeople start doing that at stores, and I ask them when we bring in tools like this, and they go, oh, I don't want to use this because I've got my ways of doing things. And I said, oh, that's good. Are you also paying the mortgage on the building? Are you paying the benefit package for those people? Because you're making a lot of decisions on behalf of the dealership. It's costing them money. That's what happens when we allow our people to just stand around and create their own cultures inside your stores. It's pretty mental. So creating this walk-in and creating this rotation allowed one person at a time to be there, fresh, for only 45 minutes or an hour at a time, and then they're off the floor. And when they work with that one person, if it's that one person maybe that day, if it's a slow day, that salesperson is going to take more time and put more attention into that one person they may have to deal with. And if every staff does that, then they start seeing everything rise up. So things change for these guys because with high employee turnover that you all know happens in our industry, they never knew that some of the log customers better than others, and now they have those insights. But the other thing was as well is they now had new staff that were staying in longer because it also solves culture problems. See, when we have new people coming in and we allow the old sharks on the floor to burn opportunities, new people don't like that culture. We're trying to hire all these millennials and we're trying to do all these things, but we're allowing people that are my age and older burn through opportunities on the floor, again, making business decisions on our behalf. And what I see in Canada and the US is that people are leaving dealerships very rapidly. They're getting these great hires come in and they last maybe a month because senior staff aren't letting them, oh, that's my customer. Oh, Claire came in 3 years ago and I sold her a Land Rover. Is it in the CRM? I don't go in the CRM. Happens all the time. And so this new culture and these new hires we want to make, they leave. So again, this is how things started changing. And that also kept their staff turnover down. People wanted to come in. The sales staff, because they were now seeing how they could handle the traffic and how much traffic they actually had, were asking for the management to hire support staff for them, right? People to tee up and help them move these people the right way through the store, because they were an award-winning store. They knew what level of excellence that they had achieved in previous years. They wanted to keep that up. So they asked for more staff, people to potentially split pay plans with and do that. So freeing them up to do their follow-up, though, because what was happening was they have so much follow-up to do, they needed the time at their desk. They needed to get away from the front and the walk-in customers and all this traffic in order to do this follow-up. So that's how things changed. And their tactics quieted, because automating and digitizing the rotation process made sure things were organized and efficient. And again, like I said, they weren't prejudging customers. And they reclaimed dollars. This was their big takeaway. They canceled all this advertising. They canceled it all, and it opened up all those dollars for the hires they needed. So automated technology, which went in to say, this is a process, will help you. We didn't go in and say, this is something that the technology is going to help you reduce your advertising spend. Not at all. But it did, and that advertising spend allowed them to hire new support staff that could be trained up in a way that they want for their customers to be handled. That experience that they want every customer to experience in the store. I'm saying experience a ton this morning. I'm sorry. Again, I don't know really what day it is or what time zone I'm in anymore, but this was allowing them to create that new staff and that new culture that they always wanted. We needed to focus on what we had. We can now turn up our advertising more targeted as needed. So they started thinking a bit more strategically based on the data that was being provided to them, not based on their gut. So what can you all take away from this? Just don't pull the chute. This is a technology conference. We saw Harry bring us through a lot of great stats that was put together by this team about how we're using technology and how we're evolving with technology. We were talking about it at dinner last night, and we were talking about whether or not we were just getting hit with so much technology that we shut down a bit. We start to turn it off. And I said, no, we always evolve. Technology evolves with us or without us. And we have to think about that in our stores, and we have to think about that in our strategic plans and how we use it. But when we're using it, give it time to bake in. You have to commit to anything you're using top down. Like I said, any vendor in this room is trying to make something for you that is going to simplify some process in your store that will allow your salespeople or your service people to focus on the one thing they have to focus on in the moment they're in, and that's usually face-to-face with a customer. So if something's not working in the first 30 or 60 or 90 days, don't quit. Don't pull the chute and walk away from it. Stick with it. And talk to your peers. Just want to see if anyone's awake yet on that slide. It's like the worst slide. This was tweeted a couple shows ago as the worst slide ever from this kid in Amarillo, Texas. But talk to your peers. Don't talk to me. I'm just a dumb vendor who flaps his yap and travels all over the world and spills maple syrup on myself. Talk to each other, because while you may not share strategic, critical data important to your store because you may be right down the street from each other, but talk to one another. Share your strategies with one another. Ian was very gracious this morning. That nugget you gave earlier about we have a day that we focus on our website. That's gold. He didn't hide that from anyone. And you could talk to him about that after at lunch. Go, okay, how do you guys schedule it? How do you do it? Talk to one another. Don't talk to me about it, because you'll only learn so much from me. But if you sit down with one another and make yourselves a little bit vulnerable to say, you know what, we're trying a piece of software that we saw you talk about at a show. Maybe Ian's up here, or Claire's up here talking about something they did and it wasn't working for you. Don't be afraid to go up and go, you know what, we're failing with this right now. Because the more you fail, the more you're going to succeed. You have to go through these things. You have to stumble. You have to scuff your knees. Talk to these two bozos. They'll talk to both of, they'll talk to all of you. Brock will talk your ear off, so be careful. He's the Canadian side, and then Keenan's the Texan, and he'll tell you how awesome he is. But, they will both help you out. They are both very gracious with their time and their energy. But this is what I'm talking about. This is talking to one another, and that's what this is all about, because there are two things that happen in our world right now. One is technology, and it's always evolving. So again, Brilliant technology is simplifying things for us. Leverage it, understand it, adopt it top down. Don't use half measures to adopt your technology, but then use your people and the timeless pillars of doing good business, and you can't fail. Thank you very much.